Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of Game Chat. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for being with us here on this episode. Um, it also another reminder: if you haven't checked it out, we have a YouTube channel where we actually upload video episodes. And it's not just black screen and the audio from this podcast. No, it's actual video. So if you want to go see it, it's in our link tree. So go check out our Instagram, and you can click on the link in our bio, and you can view it there. And also let us know if you guys have anything you want to talk about. We have a poll on the Spotify where you can leave questions, comments, concern, episode suggestions. Uh, let us know what's on your mind. Helps us a lot. So, Elite, not too long ago, I used to be an Android user. And then for the longest time, I moved to Apple. And bad move. Were you once an Apple person yourself?
Many years ago, my son, I was an Apple user. It's funny you say that. I'll tell you my Apple story real quick. I was one of the first people ever to own an Apple iPhone, the original iPhone. I was still working in the tech industry at that point, and I bought one of the very first ones that came in, and I loved that phone. For the technology at the time, it was amazing. When the iPhone 2 came out, I hated it. And what changed it for me, the original iPhone, if you ever have a chance to see one, around the top was rounded, so it fit really smoothly, like when you took it in your pocket, in and out of your pocket. And the new one was the squared style, and I hated the style.
Wasn't it like
they originally sold
the
it?
one, like, wasn't it gray and black? Wasn't like the round part, or was it the bottom part that was black?
Yeah. No, it was all white on the front, and then the back, like starting here, was silver. It was like almost looked like the original iPods, and it was silver on the back, so you could actually have them engraved. But the selling point, what they tried to do with the two, was so you could stand them up like this and watch video. Okay. Now, contrary to where we are today, most people didn't watch a lot of video because the technology really wasn't there. It was kind of like the video quality.
The only people like that could watch video was like if you had money, because you had to go to iTunes, right? And then like either buy or rent something, and then you could watch it.
Yeah. And I mean, I mainly used mine for a phone, calendar. Used it for the phone, the calendar feature, the text feature, of course, and an iPod. That's what I used it for, was an iPod with a phone. Then the iPhone 2 came out, and I hated it, and that's when I got introduced to Blackberries, and I started using Blackberries.
Okay, so I brought up that I was an Android user. First smartphone I ever got was an Android, and then I'm saying this because I switched back to Android, and the last time I had Android was 2015. The Samsung S6 Edge came out, and I got.
Is that a marshmallow?
Not the marshmallow. It was. I remember it was in gold. It was basically a Samsung phone, but had an edge to it, and like you could like see the time on the edge, and you get notifications on the edge, and horrible design. And I didn't have a screen protector on it. And what I found out, also from personal experience, and a friend told me, was that the edges are very they're not tough. They're very easy to wear.
No.
And so,
it was a lollipop. That was a lollipop, and then it went to nougat. Yeah.
And then so I'm like, I'm just gonna get, because I had an iPhone. I had the iPhone 4. That was my very first iPhone, and it wasn't the 4S. It was just the 4, because the 4S was the first time we got Siri on the iPhone, and I didn't have Siri.
That's right. That's why it was S.
It was the 4S back when iPhones went 4, 5S, 5C, whatever. But the current phone I'm rocking now, and I'm gonna tell audio listeners, but I'm gonna show it if you're watching on the YouTube channel. But I currently have the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 3. And I had the iPhone 11 Pro Max. I was rocking the 11 Pro Max. And then the first time I ever saw the Z Fold was a YouTuber. He's not really a tech YouTuber. He's like me. It's like we're not big into tech, but we like tech innovation, you know? So, because he had partnered with Samsung. So Samsung sends him the very first Z Fold phone. And when it was like, thick, and then like the screen, every time you turned on the front screen, it was only like half. They call this like the front screen candy bar mode. So like the first one, like the candy bar mode, like the screen wasn't even full. It was like half. And then when the first time I saw that phone, I'm like, that phone's so cool. I'm like, you get two phone, like basically, one large screen, one small screen. Because the only time I use my phone is for either text messages, phone calls, and then entertainment, which would be Netflix, YouTube. And so I'm like, oh, this phone is like, I like this. I think I would like this. And then, so, time passes, whatever. And then the Z Fold 2 comes out and it upgraded a little bit. But the problem, and I thought about getting the Z Fold 2. I was very close on getting the Z Fold 2. But a lot of people like Linus and I think MKBHD is that they were saying is that because it comes with a screen protector, like right when you open the box, it already has a screen protector. This one has one too. I don't know if you can barely see, but if you look at the camera, there's a hole in the camera on the outline. Is that already comes with a screen protector, and you can see because mine came out a little bit. There's bubbles on it. I haven't even put a screen protector on this because it came with one. And the problem for the Z Fold 2 was like the screen protector feels like plastic, like it feels like awful. And so I was like, okay. And then finally the Z Fold 3 comes out. And so I'm like, while my phone still has, hasn't depreciated yet, I'm gonna get it because I saw the 13 Pro Max, which my dad has. I was tempted to get it, but it went back to the design that you hated, the square design, which I like the square design. But I was talking to this dude, and he's like, "Yeah," he's like, "the silver on the outside of the square." He's like, "That's stainless steel," and I'm like, "Yeah, stainless steel is nice, but it's a phone, not a watch." I'm like, "I really don't need stainless steel on my phone." Like, I was fine with whatever the 11 had, the outer rim, but I'm like, I just want, I feel like this would be, the best choice for me. Even though literally I hate the T-Mobile guy because I was looking into buying an iPad too. And then he's like, "Oh, we're going to get the phone." And I had such a hassle getting this phone because T-Mobile doesn't have it in the store. So we had to order it. And then I'm like, "Well, do you have any iPad specials, right?" And then the dude he's like gave me like a little bit. He's like he talked to me like I didn't know what I was talking about, like I'm an idiot. He's like, "Oh, you're gonna get a Samsung Z Fold and an iPad." He's like, "You should get a Samsung tablet. It'll make the transition easier."
No way. Why would you ever want to have a Samsung
Exactly.
tablet?
I'm like,
Junk.
bro. I'm not an idiot. I'm like, bro. I got the knowledge of MKBHD and Linus Sebastian in my head. I know more than you, dog. It's like,
The only product that Apple really knocked out of the park, in my opinion, is the iPad.
yeah,
I think if you're in a tablet world, unless you're using a 2-in-1 like my laptop, if you're in a tablet world, the iPad is indestructible.
exactly.
I mean, literally, it's a great product. I don't use an Apple Watch, but I heard a lot of people like Apple Watches too. I actually have the Samsung Watch. You should probably get a Samsung Watch. You ever thought about getting one of them?
I was thinking for a long time. I thought about getting an Apple Watch. Well, I'm like, I want the face to be bigger. Like.
Well, that's why you should get a Samsung Watch. Have you ever seen my Samsung Watch?
My mother has one. She has like I think a gen or previous to gen, but anyway. So
They're
Yeah,
huge.
and then so I'm like, I'm like, okay, I don't know why you wouldn't. And iPads are more than Samsung tablets, so I don't know why you would talk yourself out of a big. Like, what was that? What's the Julia Roberts movie? I assume you work on commission.
I assume. Oh yeah, pretty lady, pretty woman. Yeah.
um,
It's funny is that they just dropped today. Just today, I saw the S22 Ultra, the leaks for the S22 Ultra, and so I'm a big Samsung guy. So I literally about every 12, 14 months buy the new Samsung. Um, and so I had the S21 Ultra, which is basically my understanding is the Zfold has a lot of the same features as the S21. Like you have the same chip as me, and a couple other things. I don't know how does your camera work and stuff
oh,
compare?
so
Is it pretty
so
comparable?
hold on. So before I go into camera, so this is I've transitioned pretty well into it. Um, so this is the front. So I'm for audio listeners, I'm showing the front of the phone. So this is how the front of the keyboard looks, what they call candy bar mode, and then this is how I have it on full screen mode, and then you can configure it as well as it to being two different ones like that.
Oh, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean
What's in that black space? What's in
nothing
the
like
black in
it's
the
just
middle? Just
yeah
nothing.
nothing. So like
So it's like a split keyboard, like an ergonomic
yeah, so you can
keyboard.
have it like I have it like this regular on big screen, but
Okay.
like when I opened it, it was like ergonomic keyboard. I'm like, what? And then
Can you do a swipe
yeah, you
keyboard
can
on
do
that
swipe
one?
keyboard.
Can you use the swipe?
So the
Okay.
camera on the front facing is underneath the screen. So yeah, you can barely even see it on camera, but um
It's the same way. It's the same way in ours. As mine's right
where
here.
my
You barely
finger
see it.
is for our listeners, I'm
Do you
just
see
front
where
facing camera. But where my
you
finger
see where
is,
mine
yeah,
is?
it's underneath the screen.
And so mine's also on the screen. But the only reason you can see it is because I have a black
Hmm.
screensaver. If I had color, you wouldn't. That's what I noticed too.
And another thing too,
Do you have all four? Do you have four like the 5 cameras on the back, like
yeah, I
mine?
have three cameras right here on the back.
Okay, so that's the same as the straight 22, not the ultra. Okay, so you're missing the
And then what
micro.
I like too is so if you're taking a picture of somebody, like like from afar, is what you can do is you can click this, and there's a preview,
Oh, that's kind
yeah,
of
on the
cool.
front facing screen. So like, yeah,
That's
you see
that is
my
kind of cool.
equipment set up, but like that. So like, if you want to see like how you look, and then yeah, and then you can take selfies like this. You can take selfies with this camera, so you can basically take selfies with the three cameras and know what you're doing. And
Yeah, that's
if
pretty
you're a
cool.
fan of was it 4:3 aspect ratio, then this phone is perfect. Because like if you watch like a regular video, like a regular YouTube video in a standard format, it's gonna look like, well, I'm showing it, but it's gonna look like that. Where there's some black bars.
Hmm.
But if you watch, I know like 4:3 content, like Zack Snyder's Justice League, and like I know because I just finished it recently, Cowboy Bebop. Um, it'll show up. The whole screen will be filled. So I mean, which is kind of cool.
But that what they won't. They can't do 16:9, correct?
I'm not sure. Like 16, 16:9. Oh, I'll show you.
So like if I watch a video on mine because it's like
See, this is a
weird
four by
shapes, I can get
six
16:9.
aspect ratio, so the whole thing is filled up. The whole phone is filled up.
Okay.
And then also, my complaint is, and it's not really Samsung's fault, it's Instagram's fault because I use Instagram a lot, and Instagram
So
hasn't formatted it for this phone. Twitter has, other social, I think TikTok maybe, I'll double check, but like this, in the full screen is that there's empty black two huge bars of where your screensaver is.
That's kind of like looking at it on your
Yeah.
computer. It does that weird, unless you change the
Mm-hmm.
ratio. But you like it, right? It runs
Yeah, it runs
fast.
fast.
Does everything.
I like it. And then here's TikTok in the full view.
And when she gets annoying, you can just
Yeah,
fold it.
and then you can configure apps where to continue running. Because when you fold it, like the phone locks itself, so it goes back to my lock screen. Well, you can configure apps where if you do fold it, you can the apps will still run on what they call the candy bar mode. But yeah, so I like it. If you're some similar style as me, because like again, text messages, calls, I just you because you can answer phone in this, which I do. But if I want to watch TV, movies, YouTube, then I fold it out.
It's funny is I wonder how much I would use of that, to be honest. I mean, I use my phone constantly to watch video, music, et cetera, so forth. But I just kind of wonder, like, it's interesting to me because I would want to see.
You can just use apps like right here.
Yeah, and I think that's how I'd end up probably using it. I don't know how much I would really open it. You know what I'm saying?
Because because Samsung, they also have the Z Flip, where it's like the clamshell, where it's like that. And I'm scared of that because like you can't access your phone. Like with this, I can just reply to text messages, take a call right here. But with the Z Flip is you have to open it and then you put so much wear on it that it leaves a huge mark.
You're fine. I had many, many clamshell phones in my life, and they never wear out.
They had a hinge where the screen is the hinge. You know what I mean? So because I saw shout out on YouTube, Dankpods. I'll probably show a picture on the screen because he bought his friend's wife. She had the Z Flip 2, and then she would open the thing, so much, and then like when you would take it out in regular mode, there's a huge indent from like opening and closing it so much. So that's why I waited.
Yeah, that wouldn't be good.
So the next generation came out. So I got that where they fixed the hinge a little bit, But anyway, so yeah, I've adapted back into the Android life, and I'm fine. Even though I'm currently using an Apple computer and I have an Apple iMac, Apple keyboard, Apple mouse, and Apple headphones. I'm almost basically iJustine, but I like my Android phone. I'm fine.
But it's funny for me is I guess I just never embraced the white company. I just never I've had Apple products, don't get me wrong, and I like some Apple products. It's just I also like the fact, because I know a little bit about stuff, that I have the fact of I can change my BIOS if I want. I can do this if I want. There's a lot more flexibility in the Android world for me. But even it's funny, it's like I'm sitting here with the new Galaxy Buds. I love the Galaxy Buds over the Airpods. Now, don't get me wrong. Those AirPods, the newer AirPods, are pretty awesome. I bought my wife a pair and she loves them. But I just think like there's some really cool features. And usually Samsung's the first to do things. Like, for example, Samsung was the first to have charge capability. So if I take my phone and then it'll charge sitting on the back of my phone. Same with my watch, et cetera, so forth. So they were the first to do that. Now, I know Apple does that now, but there's a lot of things that they do first, which is kind of great. And usually technology, their cameras are always seem to be better than the Apple cameras. So I looked at last year, and they didn't have any in stock, and I would possibly have one now. Did you know that Samsung makes a laptop now?
No.
And it looks super cool. And it's supposed to work kind of like when you use, how like when you used your Mac, like you'd get your text on it and everything automatically. Yeah. It's all synced together. Everything's synced. As soon as I pop open my Galaxy Buds, they would just automatically sync up to it, and like they would know that they were on my phone or not. And it just like everything synced, and they just didn't have any in stock. And then I was kind of probably going to wait a little bit anyway, just once it was going to be an impulse buy, but I usually like to wait just to see how they work out. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's kind of interesting to see, but I'll show you one real quick. They're called a notebook.
I mean, that's my biggest complaint is missing the user-friendly, when I put my AirPods on, like it automatically connects to my phone. And you know what my problem is nobody's talking about? So these are my AirPods, right? So my dad has never on his phone, he has never ever connected to these AirPods. He's never ever connected like, can I use them? Can I test them out? Like never on his phone. And sometimes even when I had my Apple phone, it would connect to his phone. Like like when I, pop them up, it would connect to his phone. And I'm like, why is it doing that? I'm like, when my phone would literally be in my left hand and my AirPods would be in my right hand,
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
But I miss battery percentage. I mean, I can just get a third-party app, so where it would show me, because that's what my mom has. My mother, she gets my hand-me-down AirPods, and then she loves them.
Well, the new ones, if you go to the Galaxy Buds, for example, they tell you that now. But you can get a third-party app, because I had one on my AirPods when I had them before I got Galaxy Buds. But this is the Samsung Galaxy Book, they call it. This is the Book Pro, so they're kind of stealing the whole Apple thing. But it's a 13. The one I looked at was a 13-inch, and pretty slick, right? Looks cool. I mean, they're pricey. It was $1,100. So I was kind of like, I went out and got my Lenovo, which I love, and I think it was roughly about maybe $800, $900. So I thought it was a little bit pricey, but that might be my next purchase down the road, just because I like the idea of syncability, and I like the idea of the thing I found about Android, and this is kind of what I never really got ingrained with in the world of Apple. Now, I use mine mainly, my phone and my stuff I use a lot for work. And Google Sheets and Google this and Google that and Gmail and blah, 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 blah. They seem to have so much, the maps. I mean, everything seems to be better on Google, software-wise, than Apple. And then Apple seems to be, every time you turn around, if I want Apple numbers or I want letters, I got to buy that. Or if I want, to hook up this, I got to go buy a flipping dongle. And it's like they're always trying to get. You've already paid $1,800 for the Power Book, and now they want to get you for another $300 so you can hook your shit up to it. That's where Apple loses me every time. It's because, one, their chipsets aren't necessarily the greatest chipsets. So the chip that you have in your phone right now is an AMD chip, same as mine, and they were cutting edge when they put them in there. Granted, next year there'll be something more cutting edge, but they're faster than what they're putting in the iPhones. And the iPhones, I swear to God, I know they had a lawsuit several years ago, but I swear to God, 18 months, as soon as you make that final payment on that phone, they start slowing down.
That's also why I left.
They have issues. Yeah. And it's like, what the flip, And the beauty, I love it here, is the one thing I would recommend anybody, because I have a large hard drive on this, is the one thing I would recommend anybody buying a Samsung to do is go to the Samsung. I think I pay $4 a month or $3 a month for a 5 terabyte backup that backs my phone up automatically every night. So I lost my phone one time, fell in the ocean. Done. Went saltwater and phones don't work well together, no matter how much rice you put into it. And so I went and bought a new phone, activated. Would you like to download from your cloud account? I had every one of my contacts. I didn't lose anything. And to me, that was invaluable because the joke I always say is if I ever lose this, I don't know where I'm going. Literally, my calendar. So I have 5 email accounts synced to this. I've got 3, 4 calendars. It tells me every day where I'm going. If I don't have it, I might as well just be sitting at home twiddling my fingers because I don't know where I'm supposed to be.
Apple has that with the iCloud, but like the iCloud storage that they give you is
nobody understands the iCloud,
and and that like Apple doesn't like emphasize enough on it, and then it's like they give you so little where you're forced to upgrade. Like there's no other option,
and it just blows my mind. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, Apple makes great products. Like I said, nobody makes a better tablet than Apple. And if Apple said, hey, we're getting out of the phone business and we're getting out of the computer business. Now, that being said, I'm going to rephrase that. Nobody makes a better tablet than Apple, and nobody makes a better computer for developers that do art than Apple.
And
okay, that PowerBook, I mean, not the PowerBook, but the MacBook, the Power Tower, whatever, I forget what they call it now. The Mac Pro, they call it now, but it used to be a Power Mac. By hands down, if you're in the industry where you're designing web pages or you're doing anything with art, that's them. That's their world, you know?
Also, even though I use, Galaxy Buds, but you got to give them credit because the Airpods were pretty revolutionary where they finally cut the cords on the headphones. But you know what?
You know they didn't invent that, right? Because Bose did it first. But Bose did it for $400, where they did it for the first ones. I think were like $150.
Yeah, it was $149, and they sold enough. Literally, I forgot what video it was, but they pulled it up. I think it was a Forbes column where they're like, if like let's just say AirPods themselves as their own company is, they what you call it? They are, they'd be on the NASDAQ because they made $1 billion.
Oh yeah, it carried them for 2 years. So the iPhones isn't what's carrying Apple anymore. There was a long period of time people are leaving iPhones. So the Samsung phone, the Samsung Galaxy phone, is the number 1 selling phone in the world, hands down. So something like if I'm not mistaken, I want to say it's like 30% of market share is what Apple's getting for iPhone, and it's going down every year. Now, I know that people are going to be, so when I said that comment, there's going to be people out there and say, no freaking way. And then I'm going to say to you, the United States isn't the world. Okay? In Asian countries, Samsung is the company, and then there's another company, it's not Daewoo, but there's another crazy company in China that's
I know what you're talking. It's Huawei or something like that.
Huawei, and they're huge. And then there's another product that's huge. That's called the Google. The Pixels are huge overseas, and there's another one. It's like One Touch or One something.
Yeah, the One Plus.
It's huge.
The One Plus.
One Pluses, and they're huge overseas in Europe and in Asia. So it's amazing to me. That's why I think that Apple's kind of looking at different things, and they're kind of. Last couple of years, if you notice, like when Apple does their event, they're really, really kind of stepping up their computer game again, and they're stepping up their tablet game. And I think if they realize that maybe the roller coaster has happened with the iPhones, and now they're kind of like, okay, because we talked about this in pre-production, what is the one item, if anything could be reinvented, that you'd want again? And I said to you, hands down, I would want a BlackBerry. I heard a rumor that there's going to be a BlackBerry coming out.
Really?
Now, I don't know if it's going to be the BlackBerry company. So the BlackBerry company originally was a German company. And for the business person, that phone was revolutionary. I could do emails, I could do everything, and it had a little wheel on the side. Oh my God, it was so cool. And I was like, I missed that. And it's funny is I have a friend of mine that works for an insurance agency and another friend of mine that works for the same insurance agency, and they both email me all the time from BlackBerries. So I'm going to find out where they get them because I might end up getting me a BlackBerry.
Uh,
The thumb board was
yeah.
amazing.
One piece of product that I wish, would make a comeback, because recently I've been on YouTube, and shout out to this guy on YouTube. His name is Airpods, and like he reviews like MP3 because he's been in the sound industry.
You said his name was Bankpods?
DANK.
Dankpods. Okay, you broke
Yeah.
up when you said it.
And
Sorry.
so what he does is for fun is he reviews like terrible MP3 players, but the best MP3 player of all time, and he loves it. And I had one was the iPod, and I kind of wish they would make a comeback, because because he always gets them, and I never knew this was when iPods first came out, is like you have to have iTunes software, to use it. And then and then apparently I never knew this. Apple made a deal with HP, whereas if you had Windows software, is you'd buy an HP iPod, and you could use and then you can get it. But I think it was the second generation or the third generation. It was the one with the wheel, and then it was black. Oh, it was the fifth gen. I'm pulling it up.
You had to have a much later version than the original ones.
Yeah.
And the original ones, that's not true. The original first to third generations, you didn't have to. You just had to download different software on a Windows. Because I didn't have an HP, I just had you just had to go get their own special software for them. And that they had their own software program that it used to be called iTunes for Windows, or iTunes. Yeah, it was iTunes for Windows. And it was but I'm going to tell you something that's going to blow your mind. You continue. I'm looking something up.
Back in the day, Apple didn't have iTunes for Windows, and it was like for 2 years, Mac only. And it was in 2003 they finally started making Windows versions. But in a deal with HP in 2004, meant that iTunes was pre-installed on their machines, and so that means they were on display in stores that Apple didn't sell stuff in, like Walmart and Radio Shack.
If you can see my screen, do you see? So I know from left to right. I had the third one, this gray one right here, this blackish gray one, because that's the one I remember that's what my mom had, and and she wouldn't use it, and I would always keep her iPod. But I remember it was a video iPod that she had, and I think it was the third or the fifth gen. And I remember having, I think it was this one, the light green one, the Nano.
Yeah. I remember the Nanos.
But like, because the greatest thing, if for those who don't remember the iPod, was the click wheel, the spin wheel, and then hearing that cycle, that click, once you go down. Yeah, exactly. Like it was like nice to the ear, and then the best shuffle.
You can shut it off,
and like, when it was like. And on the screen it would show the album covers, and then you could cycle through from your library and go to this album, and I'm like, that's so cool. I'm like, I miss that, because on Spotify it's just here's the album, you just swipe, but I'm like, there's no click, there's no anything.
So you want to hear mind blowing? So I had the first generation iPod. And I remember it because it came out, and I had to do a business trip where I was going to Texas, actually, believe it or not. I was going down to Dallas for 10 days. And I was like, oh, I'm going to buy this. I'm going to load it up with a bunch of songs so I have something to listen to on the airplane and when I'm in my hotel or whatever. And so I went home, downloaded a bunch of songs, blah, 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 blah. That first iPod I bought the biggest one because I was like, oh, I'm going to buy this. I'm going to put my whole record collection, everything on it. I mean, CDs galore. I used to have tons and tons and tons of CDs. And you ready for this? It was 20 gigabytes.
20 gigabytes.
And that was as big as you could get. 40 gigabytes came out like a year later. And I was like, we were like, you'll never fill up 20 gigs. That's oh my God, it's huge.
The smallest
and
one
it's
was like it was in increments of 5, right? Yeah, 5, 10, 15, and then 20.
Yeah. Well, the original ones only came out 5, 10, and 20. The original white first gens. And the funny thing about that wheel you speak of, it was revolutionary because not only did it spin, but if you pushed to the right, it skipped. If you pushed to the left, it went back. And then up and down was the volume, and in the center was how you selected. So it really was like a 5-touch wheel. And it was kind of amazing that it had that technology. So you had a lightly touch, and that's how you made it go around. If you pushed too hard, it would like sink the thing in. So you just basically had to touch it, and it just felt the heat of your finger, and it go. And oh my God, you're right. And then it got to be so you couldn't have. There was no such thing as a podcast, so we'd be out of business, Brunner. There was no podcast then, but you could do these things where you had to go on. And this is where Apple was super smart. Is you went on that iTunes. You never used iTunes?
I've used iTunes in the past before, yeah.
Okay. So you used to go on, it was 99 cents a song. Okay. So let's say you like a band and like all of a sudden you go to, whatever. You go to Guns N' Roses Appetite for Destruction. You bought My Michelle, Welcome to the Jungle, blah, 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 blah. There's 14 songs on there. You could buy the album for $9.99 or 99 cents a song. Let's say you go and you buy like 5 songs. Now you spent $5. It'll go back and tell you, oh, you can buy the album for $5. Or if you bought 6, it'd say for $4 more, you could just buy the album. And it was so revolutionary to do that. And I bet you in the first year I had that iPod. Now, I told you I literally probably had hundreds, if not close to 1,000 CDs. I probably dropped $1,500 on songs at Apple. It was like constantly, man, just like buying stuff. You could also buy subscriptions to certain things. Like I remember they had ESPN used to do something. I guess they were like the first podcast, really. You'd subscribe to them and pay.
When I got, our iPods, but like, I wonder how much back then Apple made from iTunes cards. Because back then that was the big thing, was getting iTunes cards.
Yeah.
That was like the perfect stocking stuffer, was getting an iTunes card.
Yeah, and it's like, and then you go in, but by the time you got it though, you could also watch movies on it and shows, right? They didn't, and they had the color. Yours were color, ours were black and white, like a hard grayscale black and white.
Yeah, I think I got
they were cool.
The first video iPod. Yeah,
they were really cool. I mean, the funny thing is, like, I think back about that. That's a great thing to possibly bring back. But why would you? Because it's in your phone now.
Because another thing too is an appeal, because for like people who run, because it was already a thing, was like, you buy the arm thing and then like you can run with it. But like the annoying thing was like the wires, where it's like it's so it's like a Bluetooth one would be perfect, and not only that is like if you lose it, you just lose an MP3 player. You don't lose your whole phone or anything.
But they've already kind of gone past that now, because you can just get an Apple Watch and just run with your watch to a pair of AirPods. And if there's an emergency, you can make a phone call. It's funny is because I look back on it, like you kind of said, but I will tell you that's the number one reason. Exactly. You just hit the nail right on the head of why I don't like Apple products. It's interface. So Apple used to have to use freaking iTunes. Okay. Now I told you I literally could log right in iTunes right now, and I bet you I have. You know what? I'll do it in a second. I will download it right now while we're talking. Let me go to iTunes, and I will tell you exactly why Apple. I do not like. I do not like them, Sam. I do not like them.
I just miss. I just miss the. Like, it was just so smooth. It was just so slick. The scrolling of the wheel, the fast forward, the skip. Like, it was just, I just missed that. And then, because I'm like, I wish they could make an iPod where it's like, oh, here's an iPod, but you can have apps on it. So like you can download your Spotify. So it's not just based, in iTunes. You know what I mean? Or if you want to, some more Apple subscriptions to Apple Music, go for it.
I hear you.
I miss it. I just miss it. just the old days too, when they used to think differently.
They did think differently. So, you, listeners, this is what I'm trying to do right now. Is I'm trying to log into iTunes. Okay, so this is exactly why. I'm going to share my screen if I can. Hopefully nothing personal showing. And let me see here. So I'm sharing, in the process of sharing my screen. So, do you see that, Brunner? Okay, so let's see what I have in here for music. Okay, so we got a bunch of crap in here. You see all that stuff in there? Okay, and I know there's much, much more, but I don't know where it all is. Right? So here's what I always kind of sit. Oh, it's now starting to download. You see it all downloading? Okay, so here's what I kind of always say about iTunes. The main reason I hate iTunes and Apple was every time I turned on iTunes, it had an update.
Yeah.
Always had an update. 2 days ago, I opened it. Now I open it. Update. Okay. And if I want, they use a different, they don't use MP3s. They use AA1C, I think it's called. It's a different compression rate. And there was always the argument of who had a better compression rate. So you had to, if I wanted to put it onto an MP3 player or I wanted to put it on a Samsung phone, for example, I had to get a codecs decoder and change the format. Where Samsung, I plug that bad boy in, I'll drag and pull anything over there. It automatically figures it out for me. That's the main reason why I left them. And that's kind of funny, full circle. Back to the first thing we talked about. That is exactly why I left them. I mean, there's things on here, do not get me wrong. I mean, I look back on here and I'm like, holy Christ, I forgot I owned that album. And, I mean, there's some really cool stuff. Oh, hey, look, Brunner.
Yeah, because that guy, Dankpods, he's a drummer. So he goes on his Twitch stream. And he'll have a camera for his iPod. So he's like, oh, what do you want to play? And so, he'll switch the iPod and you'll play with his iPod. He has his iPod hooked to, speakers and you'll play with it. But I'm like, and he even plays, dumb YouTube music. Download an MP3 from YouTube and then he just puts it on his iPod. And I'm like, yeah, kind of wish I wanted to be able to.
So weird. I could see it. I think it's a novel, cool thing. I could also see it kind of sitting on the shelf in an iJustine house too. So it's kind of like, shout out to iJustine. But it's literally it's kind of one of the things that I think it's more nostalgia, kind of the way that I want to go back to getting, playing Nintendo games, and just kind of going back to playing NES and N64 games, because I think it's just cool. Sometimes I think older technology, if you take a step back, is kind of actually cooler than new tech, if that makes any sense. There's things on your phone and my phone that neither one of us will ever use. Mm-hmm. Okay? This might blow your mind. I hardly ever take pictures on my phone.
Same.
Hardly ever. I don't think I ever shoot video on my phone.
Same.
Literally, if I use my phone, it's to take a picture, usually of a document, and I use the scanner feature. But if I go in my gallery, it's going to be probably a picture of my big toe or something. I don't know. Oh, last picture I took was a picture of when they put the new floor in. To send a picture to Karen we were halfway through the floor.
Yeah, that's why. I didn't care when I had an iPod because they're oh, the Pixel camera is better, the Samsung camera is better. I'm like, I don't take pictures. I'm like, I just use it to watch TV and make phone calls. I'm like,
it's not a selling point for me. And to be honest with you, for the longest time, I never watched video on them because I'm like, why would I watch video there when I have a 70-inch TV? Mm-hmm. And then what I found out is kind of the ratio. If I'm just sitting in a chair or laying in bed or whatever, and I'm watching it on my phone, the ratio, if it's sitting here, is probably about the equivalent of looking at a 70-inch TV. You get used to it. And so it's kind of, when I look at it, I'm like, that's probably primarily where I'm a heavy user. Now, I'm a big app user. I probably have about 78 gigabytes of apps. I'm also a big music user. So, like, if I go in here, so, like, one of my folders is music and books. So I have Sirius XM, because I got to listen to certain things on Sirius XM. Then I have Spotify, because that's where I listen to most of my podcasts. Shout out to Spotify and my music. Pat McAfee Show. Shout out to Pat McAfee.
Yeah, shout out. Also listen to us on Spotify.
And then I got
Spotify. Shout out.
And then I got Audible for audiobooks. And then I got Samsung Music. Do you ever use that app?
You said earlier that, you like playing the old Nintendo games. To me, greatest Nintendo console ever made, and I think it's better than its current successor, is the Nintendo Wii. I think that's the greatest console ever made. I mean, you can make your argument, Xbox or X360. 360 is pretty close to PlayStation 3 as well. But I just think the Wii is revolutionary. And if Nintendo announced, we are making, a Nintendo Wii where it's, HD, 4K, we're putting all Nintendo Wii games, we're bringing back the Wii Shop where you can just buy them digitally, and you can buy GameCube games digitally too, and all of the old previous games. I would buy it. And my biggest pet peeve, and if they were to fix it, was like, because I didn't play a lot of Wii motion sensor games, but you had to use the Wii motion sensor to click on the game and then like open it, and then play the disc. Or if they're like, oh, you can just use a GameCube controller and navigate the menu, then be like, all right, just take my money. Because I remember I was like,
I agree. I agree. I don't think, to me, it was revolutionary. I don't think it's the greatest system ever, because I'm a little bit older than you, because I think when we were playing Atari 2600 and then when it went to NES, that was whoa. So for years, I've always kind of wondered whatever happened to Nintendo, because for years they were the forefront. They were the one. I mean, you think about it, NES 8-bit system, 16-bit system with the N6 with the Super Nintendos. Then the N64 is kind of when they started to jump the shark. And it really just came down to the controller of the N64, let's be honest. And then they kind of came it back with the GameCube controller. It wasn't bad, and the Wii was the first motion. You could say what you want, but playing Wii Golf or Wii Baseball
Wii Sports was fun.
Bowling, I don't know how many times we did that Wii Sports game as a family. It was awesome. Our Wii is still hooked up. I'm looking right at it right now. The door fell off on the side, but hey, it still plays. And, we have the original white Wii still sitting over there. We had to end up buying a new motion strip.
Did you get like a Bluetooth one, like a wireless one?
No, I wish I could.
I had a wireless one. And because I never played like motion controlled games, so I'd always have to turn it on because you had to put stick batteries in there. I had to turn it on, and then once it hooked up, then I turned it off to save the battery.
Ours has this motion sensor thing. That cord must be 150
miles.
long.
That's what I hated.
That thing is incredibly
And I bought
long.
it because literally it was so long that my mother ran it over with the vacuum and like mangled it. So we bought a wireless one. But I said it. We said in previous podcast episode was like literally if you had the GameCube game, all your GameCube games could still be compatible with the Wii, and you didn't have to you didn't have to buy a special dongle if you wanted to use the GameCube controller. All you just had to do was pop off the top, and the system was built in for GameCube controllers. And if you want external memory, or be like, oh well, I already bought a big external memory for the GameCube. There's already a slot for it on top of the Wii. Yeah.
And it's funny is that there was a couple companies that did that. PlayStation 2s used to be backwards compatible with PS1s. Were 3 and 4 compatible?
I don't think so.
Remember. And then
Because I remember the
and then like the
PS2.
Xbox.
Because I remember the card slot in the front. Yeah, was it the front or back?
And the Xbox they were compatible. So the original Xbox, the mothership, was compatible with 360. That was the whole big selling point of them. And then 360 games were compatible with the Xbox One. I could throw a 360.
Yeah,
most of them.
Yeah,
most of them.
That's the thing I hate is most. I bought this thing 15 years ago. It's an Xbox 360 game. The Xbox 360 is capable of reading this other 360 game. This isn't, the disc is not scratched. Perfectly fine. If I'd stick it in there, it's going to spit it back out. Where the Wii, you could stick any GameCube game you want in there. Will run fine.
Yeah. Remember they just put it in. You could even put it in the slot. It was just smaller. It sucked the little one in smaller, which is kind of cool. You're like, how's it fit in there? It was kind of so cool. And the thing that like blows my mind is like, I would love to buy another 360. I'm just so afraid to buy one because I'm always worried about the red ring of death, and I'm always worried about what am I buying, because I know I fried 4 or 5 of those. And what are you buying? Like, there's no way to really kind of know if it's any good or if it's been modded or it's like just been, you know what I'm saying? Those things were so simple to work on and mod, and that's probably the main reason I don't buy one. But I think I was telling you, I think I'm going to buy a CRT TV. I like a 36-old Sony Trinitron if I can find one. And I might get back into retro gaming.
Go on Craigslist and see if anybody's selling the old family CRT TV for like $40.
Oh, they probably want like $20,000 for them now or something, because there's like this movement to go back to retro.
They don't know the difference. They're not gamers. But
but
also, the thing I hate about the old times, like especially old consoles like the Wii and the 360, I know for sure, is the power brick. Remember, you had the wire that goes into thing, and there's this big, huge power brick, and then that connects the cord into the wall. Do you remember those?
Oh yeah, dude. I remember them very well, very well. They had so many problems. Oh my god, those things used to fry too. To be honest with you,
yeah, because I had a side project going where I wanted to revive my old 360. So I went on Amazon, I bought one, and like one of the wires wasn't working. Like the brick worked, but the wire to it didn't. So like my old wire worked with the brick, and then I think my laser isn't working on my 360 because I have like these 360 games, and that's the thing that sucks too. Is not only number one, I don't want to get. I have the Series X. I have a PlayStation 4. Yeah, but it's like, why do I want to pay to get this thing fixed when I'm only going to play it a couple times? And then who in 2021 is still fixing Xbox 360s? And then
it's mail order. It's going overseas.
Yeah, and then number two, I took it a long time ago because I had the same issue on my old one. But number two is like, I want to get the old games I used to play as a child. But like they're either super scratched or the ones that are in mint condition, they want like $80, $90 for.
Yeah. Yep. And that's exactly right. It's I don't know. That's reasonable. I just Googled how much a Trinitron would be. There's one guy charged $350 for one. They were only $500 brand new 25 years ago.
Do you remember RCA?
Yeah. Do you know what that stands for?
No, I do not. I remember to have like
Radio Corporation of America.
I remember because Linus was talking about it. We used to have like an RCA TV, RCA DVD, and VHS player, and then now like they're all on the brink of extinction.
So they were a huge company, and the reason they were huge is a lot of people did not like the fact that Sony and Samsung and LG, that's probably a company, well, LG you'd probably know, JVC, have you ever heard of that company? Japanese Video Corporation. They were all Japanese made. For a long time, RCA was all American made. So a lot of our grandparents were all about the RCA because it was buy American. And and that's why RCAs were kind of popular. But yeah, I do remember them. In fact, I think I owned a 27-inch RCA TV at one point.
Gotta get the ones with the fat
It's
back.
funny. It's funny. It's like I think about my dad a lot, and my dad passed away in 1989, and I always think about how shocked he would be. Like, I remember how proud he was when he went and bought a 27-inch color TV. And it was like huge. That was huge, dude. When I remember being a kid in my room, and like for my 13th Christmas, I got a 13-inch black and white TV that I played Atari on, and I thought I was because I had a 13-inch black and white TV. You know what I'm saying? And I had little like an antenna, and I could watch a couple channels out of Pittsburgh on it. And my parents only had like a 19-inch TV in the living room, because it just kind of like, do you remember those big, huge console TVs that like were huge, like pieces of furniture? Yeah. Those were only 27-inch TVs. Okay? My dad would shit a brick if he saw a 70-inch TV. He would be like, what in the heck is that? I mean, and we're just like living with it. Like we got like 3 of them sitting in my house. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, oh, no big deal. He would have been like, what? And I always think that's hilarious to think about, like, where technology is. And then we're sitting here talking about, oh, I want to go back to an old gaming system.
I don't think kids now would get the joke in the first Back to the Future movie where he's like, do you have a TV, mister? He's like, yeah, we got 2 of them. Wow, you must be rich. You know?
Exactly. And it's kind of like, and they wouldn't get it. Like, I mean, literally, we have 1, 2, 3. We have 4 TVs in our house. And 3 are hooked up, and 1 sitting on the other side of the basement. And it's like, no, that would never been as a kid. Like, it never been as a kid. Could you? And my grandparents, I think, geez, Louise. I mean, I can remember going to my grandparents' house, and they're still listening to radio shows. They would go, like, they'd rather have like AM radio on, where like somebody talking as opposed to like watching a show, other than the news or Wheel of Fortune at nighttime. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of funny. That's hilarious.
Yeah, so, I think we should end it there. We had a good conversation. Guys, let us know. Spotify, Instagram. We have a TikTok too. I'll put in a link tree. If you can follow us there. You know, do you miss the iPod? Did you ever have an iPod? What old piece of technology do you miss that you had? So thank you guys for listening and watching if you're on the YouTube channel. And we'll see you in the next one.
Take it easy, everyone.